You definitely can't have like a day where you might just want to like sit in your cubicle and zone out. Those days don't exist in nursing. Yes, you have to. And I feel the older I get, like I'm like going to bed earlier. I can't kind of bounce back into it like I used to. So when you show up, you're all in.
Did you know the average person will work 90,000 hours in their lifetime? What if you could use those hours to find fulfillment and become a disruptor for good? Welcome to the Work That's Worth It podcast. I'm Georgie Enthoven, and I'm here to demonstrate that an ambitious, meaningful, and rewarding career is not just a dream, it's achievable. Each episode will dive into conversations with global change makers who cracked the code on combining income and impact. If you've ever felt like you were torn between a paycheck and your purpose, or maybe you simply yearn for more purpose, you're going to be exposed to the ambitious humans who have done it themselves. Ready to make your work worth it? Let's get started. Today, I have Nika Claes Terjesen on the show, and her story represents something we all learned to value in a whole new way during COVID, the critical impact that essential workers have on our society. Nika is a native San Franciscan who has spent 27 years as a labor and delivery nurse at California Pacific Medical Center. She earned her BSN from Dominican University in San Rafael, California, and comes from a family of registered nurses. It's literally in her DNA. Listen in to see when Nika knew that nursing was for her, and how conscious she is regarding the responsibility of what her work entails every day. She literally holds people's lives in her hands during their most vulnerable moments. In a world where so many people struggle to find work that feels purposeful, Nika wakes up every morning assured that her work matters. She meets new life as it enters the world, advocates for babies who can't speak for themselves, and supports families through the moments that will define their entire lives. Nika's insights will show you what nursing looks like in practice. Nika, lovely to have you on the Work That's Worth It podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to chatting with you today.
Yeah, well, I'm really excited that we're going to get to jump in and talk all things nursing. And you've just come off a shift, and I would love to hear where you come from and what have you been doing today?
Yeah, well, I started my day waking up at 5:20 this morning and having a little cup of coffee and driving over to 1101 Van Ness Street in the heart of San Francisco. I start my day walking into the building and kind of not knowing exactly what's coming my way, but I feel touched that I met 3 beautiful newborn babies today. I walked out of the building a little lighter on my feet and feeling grateful for some new little additions into the world.
Yeah, what an amazing opportunity to meet new life as it comes into the world.
It really is. I feel really blessed.
Yeah, I am really interested, as you know, the podcast is called Work That's Worth It, and I would like to know a little bit more about your background in nursing and how you chose it in the first place, this nursing as a career.
Yeah, I come from a family of a lot of nurses. My mom, my sister, an aunt, my niece just finished nursing school. It's kind of like in our DNA. But, I wasn't 100% sure when I was in high school. I went to an all-girl high school in San Francisco, and I had a teacher that took us on a field trip to the family birthplace. And I feel like there's a stigma about hospitals where people feel scared and nervous, and it's not always the place you want to be. And we took a tour through the family birthplace, which was historically we called it an LDRP, which is labor, delivery, and recovery and postpartum phase. And I was blown away by these nurses rocking babies and just seeing such a brand new baby, because you don't get to see that every day. It's kind of a really special moment. And usually people have a baby and they kind of go into hibernation and figuring out how to deal with the newborn. So it was kind of a really special moment when I was a senior in high school, when you're trying to figure out what you're going to do with your life and in what directions you're going to go. I decided to apply based on that field trip my senior year to nursing school and kind of see where it would take me.
That's so interesting that you have many family members in nursing, and probably, even though I'm sure you had spent some time in hospitals growing up visiting your mom, but having that emotional connection where you got to really see something that called you.
Right. Definitely. Definitely. In nursing school, I feel like it was the place that when I went through that rotation, it just had an overwhelming feeling of kind of, this is where I needed to be.
Yeah. So you felt pretty confident from the start?
Definitely. It was a little bit of a journey though, because sometimes, there's buzz like, oh, well, you need to do floor nursing before you go into a specialty. But I just really hustled to see where I could work with babies because I love them.
Okay. So I don't know anything about nursing school or the choices you need to make, but I do understand that this is something that you have to declare early on. And usually you're accepted into a university, into a nursing program, and would love to hear your take on, how that works, even coming from undergraduate, from high school into undergraduate studies.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because I've just started my 27th year as a labor and delivery nurse. But when I was a new nurse, the mentors and the very seasoned nurses that kind of really help mold and shape your career, it's one of these professions you have to kind of be there and embrace it and be present to really see the ups and downs of what can go on. I describe obstetrical nursing as kind of like an ocean. You never turn your back on it. You always have to catch the waves so you don't miss something. And your seasoned nurses kind of mold and help you prepare for your career. And you need those lifelines around you because it's definitely not necessarily like a solo practitioner kind of world. And the nurses that are, historically, there were nurses that had worked in the military or had on the East Coast. They kind of had more of a diploma program. The standard now, they don't have those programs so much. Entering, they mostly want you to have a bachelor's of science in nursing, which is called a BSN. So that's a little bit different now. The nurses coming into the profession now.
So you do a BSN, and then and how many years is that?
When you go to a 4-year college that has a nursing program, you have to first apply, and it can be a little bit competitive now because there's only a certain amount of spots, mostly because of the preceptorships that are part of your clinical. And so you are doing your undergraduate in anatomy, chemistry, physiology, along with your undergraduate of math, English. And then as your senior year approaches, you do like your public health, and you usually pick a preceptorship in an area that you might be interested in. You have to be able to find a person that's willing to kind of work with you.
Okay, to guide you. And obviously a hospital that is close, that you can access.
That's true. Yes.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the smaller universities in the US that are not by a major city may not have a hospital and therefore don't offer nursing programs, right?
When you look up, I think anywhere from USF to Dominican to San Francisco State to Sonoma State all have nursing programs. But like if any of these colleges you look at, usually they're impacted. And so they can get hundreds and hundreds of applications. And so it's not always easy. And sometimes people have to reapply when they don't get in.
Yeah. Okay. So nursing, and there sounds like there's an oversupply of people interested in coming even into the programs. What is nursing offering that is so compelling to people that want to join these programs?
I think there's a couple of things. I think you come out having a job where you don't have to start off you might have to start off on night shifts, but you jump into your career that you're going to nurture through time, but it's not like you have to climb a corporate ladder.
Okay, so it's more like your path is more obvious. It's more known of what it's going to take from you. And so it's easier maybe to commit to a program. And are there jobs on the other side?
It's funny because you hear this buzz that there's a nursing shortage. And while there are, from state to state, it's very different. Some states are unionized nurses, some states are non-unionized nurses. And so on the coasts, especially in Northern California, San Francisco in particular, and New York in particular, because of the cost of living, the compensation is a little bit higher. And so we often get nurses that might come from Mobile, Alabama, for example. You make a fraction of what you would make in San Francisco, but it's a cost of living adjustment too. But we get a lot of folks that come from Texas, Florida, different states, primarily because of unionized nursing.
Okay. And what qualities do you have, like your unique gifts, that make you a really great nurse that has been obviously doing this for 27 years?
Oh man.
Maybe it's hard to talk about, but part of what I love to do is, help people own their gifts. And so you can talk about it and also, understand exactly what our weaknesses are too.
Well, it's an interesting, when I walk through the door to meet my patient, you go from not knowing somebody at all to being in their most vulnerable moment. And you're with a person and it changes everything about the relationship. You're at their most vulnerable moment, whether it's on my end, birth. Some people work in nursing where it's death, but these are moments that change people's lives.
Yeah.
You're there to witness, and I feel very privileged to be able to be in these moments.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's exactly before you said the word privilege is what I'm reading from you is like you feel that is part of the gift of what you're getting is to be with people when they're most authentic, raw, honest. Yeah. Maybe challenged. Yeah.
And I always say labor and delivery is an interesting place because you see people at their worst and best moment. It's to go through labor is not an easy chore, and you're gifted with this beautiful moment person that changes your life.
And so what a requirement of somebody to do the kind of nursing you do is to be able to hold sacred those moments or to be there for the whole range of emotions, to make people feel safe.
I think
I'm guessing at those,
but all those things. I mean, you nailed it. That's exactly it. And it's not always picture perfect, and the days can be filled with chaos, beauty, all those things. But I think at the end of the day and at the end of my career, and when I'm an old lady, I'll look back and think, I've touched so many people's lives, and what more could you ask for?
In this show, I focus on the different impact or what I call in my book, at least, is contribution. What is the contribution that you want to make? And then how can you be rewarded for that contribution? And some careers really have very limited contribution, and people are very focused on the income aspect, which maybe they need to be at a particular time. But it sounds like your job is so much of what you do is grounded in the impact you can have. What about that is important to you?
Well, I like people. I like meeting new people. I like helping people. And if I can look back on my career and my life, and if I'm on my deathbed one day, and I know that I'm going to have touched so many people's lives, and I feel like at the end of the day, that's all worth it.
Yeah. And the emotional toll for carrying other people emotionally during their time of birth, good and bad. How do you manage that?
I know. That's a great question, because you can have a slew of very easy people and easy days and straightforward, and you can have the next week, it can be chaos. It doesn't happen often, but it is really hard when somebody loses a baby. And, of all these years, we've had maybe 2 maternal deaths. It's, exactly where you were when that situation happened, and you don't forget it. These moments and people are kind of etched into who you are.
Yeah, you're on their journey is merged with yours.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you need to do to take care of yourself in a job such as what you do?
I think we have 150 nurses on staff. We're like a family. We kind of process and have therapy sessions together
together.
to, because we're kind of in the trenches together. So we have a really tight knit, we have our work family. I love coming home and talking to my family too. And I love talking to my sister who's a nurse. We do different types of nursing, but it's a little bit of the same story in a different realm.
Okay. But being able to hold your coworkers emotionally is also part of the role that you
Yeah.
play.
Yeah. Actually, we just started having a retreat recently at work, and it's a night away. And it's a nurse, a retired nurse who ran for chemo patients who were kind of terminal. And they've implemented this to kind of help kind of process kind of the raw emotions we go through every day and kind of acknowledge it and share with each other. I think sometimes when you share the journey with other people, it kind of validates the highs and lows of the work we do.
Yeah. And in the work that you do, how important is collaboration?
Oh, 100%. It's a little bit like I equate it a lot to a pilot on an airplane, because when you board the airplane, you want to know that the two pilots are talking and that are going to get you there safe.
Okay. And the pilots are the doctors?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the doctors and the nurse, it's the collaboration of the team.
Okay.
You need
Okay.
your physician, you need your bedside nurse who knows you and who's like monitoring your labor, the baby's well-being. There's an art to understanding and interpreting fetal monitoring. The baby tells us how they're doing by understanding that tracing. So I know if I have a good baby based on a reactive strip, or I know if I have a baby that needs help, I'm the eyes and the ears for the doctor, and it's my job to advocate.
Okay. Let's talk about the responsibility of this job. It sounds like what you're just telling me, I can just feel the weight of you can't have an off day. You have to be fully present, engaged, well rested to show up in times of birth, as you're talking about representing the baby. So what is that like?
But you definitely can't have like a day where you might just want to like sit in your cubicle and zone out. Those days don't exist in nursing. Yes, you have to. And I feel the older I get, like I'm like going to bed earlier. I can't kind of bounce back into it like I used to. So when you show up, you're all in. You're not alone. We know the way that we work together, we are all kind of keeping an eye on our fetal monitoring strips. Like if there's a problem, we're all kind of in it together. We have each other's back. Like, hey, are you okay? Like, I've got you. If there's a problem in a room, there you have like a buddy system. So you really are, it's such a collaboration. It's not an independent person type of job.
I mean, the world you're describing is so different from anything that I've experienced in the corporate world. So I can't imagine in an office environment, people saying, are you okay? Like,
Yeah.
I've got you recovered. I think often people have to show up in those jobs and pretend that everything's fine. But the stakes are just a lot higher in what you're doing. And so that communication is really important.
100%. Yeah. 100%.
What do you wish you had known before entering nursing as a profession?
I kind of thought I would be sitting rocking babies and like feeling their soft cashmere skin. I didn't really realize that there are always life and death moments, and you just have to be on your toes and always just paying attention to all the signs and messages around you. There's a lot of constantness to it, but you get a lot of reward for it.
Okay, so it's like your nervous system is always on alert.
Yes.
Yeah, and somehow you seem like such a calm, peaceful person.
It takes a little bit. It took, 2 years in, even now, there's always, if there's a issue, we always collaborate with each other and like, hey, what do you think? Like, if you're looking at this, do you think is this what you would be doing? So we bounce off each other.
Okay. The other part of my show really sort of focuses on the reward that you get from being a nurse. And we talked about some of the emotional rewards of holding the babies, bringing life into the world. Don't need any specifics, but just wonder what it's like on the income front of is nursing a livable wage in San Francisco or a major city in the US?
Right. That is a very interesting question. I feel like I look back, I have the old pay stubs from when I first started, and sometimes I look back and I'm like, wow, I've come a long way. But it is interesting because when I started nursing, it was before the tech boom in San Francisco. So the nursing job is kind of like, it's always steady and stable. And there are these income increases based on our contract that we kind of, CNA, which is the California Nurses Association, kind of holds a hospital kind of accountable for giving living wages. And as you've been there a certain amount of time, you get, like your 10-year bonus. It's not like a tech bonus, but you get nice health benefits. You get 6 to 8 weeks off once you've been there for a while. Gosh, if you've been there 5 years, I think you get 6 weeks off. And it's a paid vacation. And the one beauty of that is when you go on vacation, you are off.
Yeah, nothing's piling up on your desk. There's no, the babies aren't waiting for you.
No. And I've been on vacation with friends who are freaking out like, oh my God, I have to answer this email. And I'm like, what? I'm on vacation. And there's a beauty to that maybe if you haven't ever worked in the corporate world, you wouldn't know. That is a gift because you can really embrace your vacation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sounds like one of the things you're also highlighting is in a city where, like in San Francisco with the tech boom, salaries are really high and the cost of living has changed significantly, probably from when you started. And so that does make it more challenging to have an essential job.
Yes, it does. I mean, there are ways, and we get people that come here. Some of the younger nurses now have roommates. We get a lot of travel nurses. They like to come here because I think San Francisco in particular is an area where there's pretty good compensation for nursing. So I think it's definitely a livable city. You might not get to do everything you want, but I do think it is a fair, generous compensation in the nursing world.
And having spent already 27 years doing this, what excites you about the future?
Let's see. Well, the technology has changed a lot. And it is interesting. I love seeing I call them the younger generation coming in having babies. They're kind of like the tech savvy. They know more about tech than some of the more seasoned nurses. And they kind of have technology and information on their fingertips. So it's kind of nice to embrace like a next chapter of the new generation of young moms and dads having babies.
Yeah. So they're very aware of the options they have, the possibilities for birth, what can go right, what can go wrong. And they're very informed.
Very informed. Yes.
Yeah. And so are you finding that part of your job is adapting to new technologies and change, or do things sort of mostly stay the same?
For a long time, things stayed the same, but they are changing so quickly now, way, way quicker than they did for the decades prior. I'd say in the last 5 years, there's been crazy innovation. There's like new devices that OB doesn't have a ton of devices like you would find in orthopedics, but we had some Cal Poly students recently. They had designed an obstetrical product for uterine hemorrhage, and it kind of went dormant for a little bit. And then some more students brought it to the FDA and it got funded. And so it's so cool to see a new device from like a California state school that we use every day and is being used globally now.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So you get to work with students and actually give them feedback on the devices that they're developing and
I'm always like, why couldn't I think of that?
Well, maybe they need you on their board.
I know. It takes people to think outside the box a little bit though,
Yeah. Yeah. When you're in it all day, it's hard to imagine what you may need, but to think
Oh
of it
my
from the
gosh.
outside.
We used to use these for C-sections, these like old school retractors that they use in every surgery. And somebody came up with this simple rubber, like a rubber circle that folds. And that's the only thing we use now for our C-sections.
Okay, so it sounds like also your industry is really open when there's a tool to be developed that is testing well and is helpful, that you're open to adopt new technologies and new ways of being.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Is there training that happens all throughout nursing? Like, I know you're obviously learning on the job, but are there legal requirements of having to continually keep your license current?
Yes. Once you have your registered nursing license, there's you need like 40 hours every 2 years. My department is advanced cardiac life support, which is ACLS, which is like a cardiac kind of rhythm for like maternal situations if someone were to be non-responsive. We have a neonatal resuscitation requirement. And then we have kind of e-learning projects all the time too. We have competency camps where we go and do mock hemorrhages and mock all the situations that can arise that are emergencies. We kind of practice them all together, and then we kind of debrief and figure out like, how could we have done that better? Like, how can our communication be more efficient, just so we don't end up in situations that we have a poor outcome.
Yeah. Wow. I'm thinking of so many of your stories could be used in the corporate world so well to actually like test some of the difficult situations that come up, and how does the team work together and then give feedback is amazing.
Right. Yeah.
Well, this has been such an interesting and insightful conversation. You're very different to most of the guests that I have on the podcast, and I know very little about nursing other than how much I have treasured nurses in any hospital experience that I've had, including giving birth to 3 children. So I'm just really grateful to be able to learn more from you and understand what it takes to be a nurse and your particular kind. And also just to be in your presence, you have such a warm and comforting way of being.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I hope that I showed a little bit of my world into your podcast so you can kind of see the beauty of nursing.
Yeah. What would be your last piece of advice for people considering being a nurse?
I think you'll never regret it. I think that it's a touching, beautiful profession, and we need the younger generation to continue cultivating. People will always need somebody to take care of them. And it's really it's been a beautiful profession.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing, and lovely to have you on the podcast, and look forward to keeping in touch.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Take care.
Okay. You too.
Let's talk about a couple takeaways from this episode with Nika. First, ideally, essential work comes with essential support systems. What caught my attention about Nika's story is how nursing has built-in structures that many other professions lack. When she describes her extended nurse work family processing difficult cases together, the camps where they practice emergency scenarios, and the buddy system where colleagues genuinely ask, "Are you okay?" and "I've got you," this is what meaningful work actually looks like. It's not just about the individual purpose. It's about being part of a profession that recognizes the emotional and physical demands of the work and creates systems to support people through it. If you're considering essential work, look for fields that have invested in these kinds of support structures. Also, the second takeaway is true work-life balance means complete separation. Nika's description of being truly off when she's on vacation, meaning no emails piling up, no babies waiting for her, reveals something profound about different types of careers. While corporate workers often struggle with boundaries and being always on, even on the beach, nursing offers something rare. When you clock out, you're completely done. The work is intense and demanding while you're there, but it doesn't follow you home. For people seeking both meaningful work and genuine downtime, consider careers where the work naturally contains itself, where being fully present during work hours earns you the right to be fully absent during time off. And that's a wrap for today's episode of Work That's Worth It. Remember, every conversation we share is designed to empower you to build a career that's truly worth your time and energy. There are future disruptors out there just like you who would appreciate the conversations in this podcast. Please support me by spreading the word and sharing this episode with a friend or two, or visit my website at georgieenthoven.com. That's spelled GeorgieEnthoven.com. Until next time, ask yourself, what problems am I solving, and are they worth my valuable time? Your intentional choices today can lead to exponential impact tomorrow. Thanks for listening.